murder case of Michaela Garecht. Her disappearance has gone unsolved for more than 30 years, but tonight there is an arrest. The Alameda County District Attorney's Office has charged this man, 59-year-old David Mish.
On a Saturday morning, November 19, 1988, Michaela had just wrapped up breakfast with her family when her best friend, 9-year-old Katrina Rodriguez, approached Sharon with a request for her and Michaela to head to the local grocery store for snacks. Sharon's response was a resolute no at first. Distressed yet resolute, Michaela implored her mother, assuring her that they would be secure and return swiftly. Understanding that her daughter would eventually grow up, Sharon gave in and permitted them to go, all while cautioning them to stay safe. She handed Michaela $5 and the girls eagerly snatched up their scooters. Michaela looked at Sharon and declared, "I love you, Mom," before they walked down the block, disappearing from view as Sharon stood there, watching them leave. As Rod stepped outside to tend to the car, Sharon busied herself with the breakfast dishes, completely oblivious to the impending turmoil that would soon shatter her world. Michaela and Katrina sped down the street on their scooters, heading straight for the Rainbow Market on Mission Boulevard. Their excitement palpable as they anticipated what awaited them there. They had visited this place previously, accompanied by either their parents or their teenagers next door. This day, however, marked their initial experience in solitude. After parking their scooters right outside the store, the two girls headed inside to grab some snacks. After purchasing 2 Mountain Dew sodas, 2 sticks of beef jerky, and 2 pieces of cherry taffy, they exited the store, completely oblivious to their scooters as they engaged in lively conversations about their holiday plans. Before they could exit the parking lot, both girls suddenly remembered that their scooters were still parked outside the store. Michaela and Katrina realized one was missing, prompting them to split up in search of the other scooter. Michaela was the first to notice it. It was located approximately 3 parking spaces over and abandoned beside another vehicle. Michaela instinctively dashed toward the scooter, her hand reaching for the handlebars with urgency. In an instant, a man leaped from the vehicle, seizing Michaela by the waist and forcefully pushing her into the back seat. Katrina was paralyzed with fear, her heart racing as she witnessed her friend's desperate cries and the terrifying scene unfolding before her, caught in the clutches of the captor. The man accelerated aggressively from the parking space, racing down Mission Boulevard in the direction of Union City. Katrina rushed back into the store, breathless, and informed the cashier, Ronna Ronalyn, that Michaela had just been taken. Ronna contacted the local authorities, who responded with remarkable speed to the scene of the incident. She reached out to Katrina's father to inform him about the recent events at the store. At home, Sharon was immersed in washing the dishes when she suddenly heard urgent shouting from outside. Rod, her husband, stormed through the front door, urgently announcing that Michaela had just been abducted outside the Rainbow Market. Accompanied by Katrina's father, they approached the store, only to find police officers flooding the scene, interviewing both customers and staff members. Katrina was utterly devastated and was permitted to return home with her father. Rod and Sharon stayed back, seeking to uncover the truth, yet from the depths of her mind, a chilling dread began to grow as Sharon recalled a haunting poem penned by Michaela. Sharon recalled a disturbing event that had occurred just a week prior. She awoke to discover Michaela at the breakfast table, pen in hand, immersed in her writing during the quiet early hours of the morning. When her mother inquired about her activities, Michaela responded that she was composing a poem, yet remained elusive in her explanation. Sharon persistently inquired about the meaning of the poem, while Michaela revealed that she had awakened to strange sounds emanating from the attic, prompting her thoughts to drift towards individuals who had been abducted and confined in such spaces. She then explained to Sharon that her poem focused on individuals who were abducted and held against their will, rather than those who were taken and murdered. Sharon felt a chilling sense of foreboding when she discovered that a child as bright and joyful as Michaela could compose such a dark poem. In retrospect, She now felt that Michaela might have crafted the poem as a form of foretelling or an eerie premonition. Rana, the cashier, was fortunate enough to recall the man she claimed took Michaela. She provided the police with a description of a white male in his 30s, noting that he had a mustache. She managed to discern that the car was either burgundy or maroon, yet she couldn't provide any specifics regarding its make or model. Rana informed the authorities that the individual had parked his vehicle and exited, yet did not proceed into the shop. Instead, he remained in the shadows, peering through the glass, observing the girls and the other patrons. She sensed that he might be contemplating a robbery at the store. The sketch artist swiftly created a composite sketch, distributing the image to every police station in the vicinity and various news outlets. The scooter was discovered by investigators, who then collected it as crucial evidence. They managed to extract a hidden handprint from the scooter handle. The evidence was carefully stored for the purpose of identifying the abductor, yet there were scant leads left to pursue. As the sun set on the first day following the abduction, the Federal Bureau of Investigation stepped into the unfolding mystery surrounding Michaela's disappearance. In light of the alarming rise in child abductions, the FBI was convinced that there had to be a connection between Michaela's vanishing and the case of other missing children. However, authorities quickly understood that Katrina could provide additional insights regarding the suspect, as she was the crucial eyewitness to the abduction. Just 2 days following the event, detectives arrived at Katrina's family residence, where they convened with her parents to discuss the situation. The revelations left investigators in shock. The portrayal of the abductor starkly contrasted with the account provided by the shop clerk. Katrina recounted her encounter with a young white male, likely in his early 20s, characterized by his long, unkempt, dirty blonde hair. She mentioned that his face was marked by severe acne, and she described his eyes as a striking blue. Katrina recalled his eyes distinctly and told investigators he had fox eyes. He stared directly at me, yet it was as if I was invisible. She further informed the investigators that his vehicle was either beige or tan, with a boxy shape and noticeable body damage. The latest details raised alarms as detectives understood that the vital first 48 hours had slipped away while they pursued the wrong suspect. The posters were updated with the image of the new suspect and circulated again in an effort to uncover fresh leads. Armed with fresh insights, investigators started to visit the homes of all registered sex offenders in the vicinity, probing for answers. Numerous volunteers took to the streets, knocking on doors and distributing posters that detailed Michaela's outfit: a white t-shirt emblazoned with the word Metro, rolled-up blue denim jeans, black Mary Jane shoes, and pearl-colored feathered-shaped earrings. As the absence of any leads regarding Michaela in the surrounding suburbs became increasingly concerning, law enforcement broadened their search efforts to encompass the nearby Garecht National Park and Niles Canyon. The investigation was initiated after 3 hikers reported seeing footprints in the wooded region, believed to belong to an adult and a child. Upon tracing the path, they stumbled upon a blanket and discarded fast food wrappers. A psychological profile indicated that the abductor was probably going to transport Michaela to a remote location. Helicopters were equipped with advanced infrared thermal cameras to detect any heat signatures hidden within the thick woods. Law enforcement officials scoured the area on horseback and on foot. Despite all the hard work, nothing came of it. Michaela disappeared without a trace, taken by her abductor into the unknown. Michaela's disappearance captured the attention of the entire nation. Her narrative was highlighted on a renowned investigative series and marked one of the earliest cases of child abduction showcased on a prominent crime-fighting program. Her image was plastered on milk cartons, and the Missing Children's Program distributed over 50 million mailing cards nationwide featuring Michaela's picture, a description of her clothing, and a composite sketch of the abductors. Joe Montana, the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, publicly expressed support for the Garecht family and urged anyone with information to step forward. A sum of $70,000 was offered as a reward for any leads concerning Michaela's location during this period. In the initial year following her vanishing, law enforcement gathered more than 50,000 leads, the majority of which were mere speculation. Yet everyone remained determined to persevere. Sharon pursued leads, with some reaching all the way to Russia. However, there were no breakthroughs to be found. Another 4 years would pass before investigators finally received a tip they thought might hold some truth. During that period, more than 15,000 tips poured in, with law enforcement grasping at every lead, desperate for any clue that might illuminate the mystery surrounding the disappearance of the young girl. In the early 1990s, an inmate in Indiana revealed crucial details about Michaela's disappearance. Roger Haggard, currently serving an 11-year sentence for burglary, claimed that he assisted a friend in burying her body in a gladulous field located in Union City. Initially, investigators dismissed the case, thinking it might just lead them on a wild goose chase. When Haggard understood that the investigators were dismissing his assertions, he shifted his focus to the media. In 1992, he penned a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, asserting that he had knowledge of the individual responsible for Michaela's abduction and the location of her burial. He vowed to guide the authorities to where her remains lay. The intense scrutiny and widespread outrage compelled authorities to transport Haggard to California to provide testimony before a grand jury. Under oath, Haggard reiterated the allegations he had been presenting to investigators. Haggard vowed to guide investigators not just to Michaela's remains, but also to the residence of the suspected murderer. The following day, Haggard and a group of investigators combed through the field where he alleged Michaela's body was interred. In a stunning turn of events, after 8 hours of relentless searching, Haggard reportedly confessed to the police that his initial claim was fabricated. He informed the investigators that he purposely aimed to provide the Garecht family with a feeling of closure after all this time. Haggard faced charges of perjury, resulting in an additional 6-year prison sentence and a financial penalty of $6,000 to be paid to Michaela's family for the false hope he provided. Every fresh clue threatened to plunge the detectives into a more sinister reality than they ever had anticipated. A suspect had been under police scrutiny since 1991, Timothy Binder, a 43-year-old employee at a sewage treatment facility, led a life that would soon intertwine with a shocking narrative. Despite having a family, he drew the attention of investigators when concerned parents in the East Bay area reported his unsettling behavior. Parents claimed he had been sending gifts and money to young girls to establish a connection with them. Several of the letters were said to be inscribed in reverse, requiring a mirror for deciphering. Investigators delved into Binder's past and uncovered that he had been terminated from his position as a Social Security claims officer after it came to light that he was misusing personal information to send birthday gifts to young girls. Binder asserted that his actions were solely intended to bring enchantment into their existence. After a year and a half, it was revealed that he had not been using the information for personal gain, leading to his alleged reinstatement. Authorities uncovered that Binder operated a light blue van, his license plate bearing the message, "Love You." Inside the van was reportedly adorned with images of young children, crayon art, and passages from the Bible. Reports indicated that he was apprehended for trying to entice 2 young girls into his van, but the charges were ultimately dismissed. His sole formal accusation was related to public intoxication. In addition to that, he was honored with an award for heroism by the California Highway Patrol due to his courageous rescue efforts during the devastating earthquake in California in 1989. Investigators uncovered that Binder had a talent for embedding himself in the cases of missing children. After Michaela vanished in November 1988, he reached out to her mother, Sharon. Before that, he had reached out to Kim Swartz, the mother of 7-year-old Amber Swartz, who had disappeared in June of that same year. Both mothers allegedly expressed to the authorities their unease about Binder, noting that he continued to reach out to them concerning the progress in both cases. In a chilling twist of fate, Binder had penned a letter to the authorities following Amber's mysterious disappearance. In the letter, he asserted that the next child to vanish would be a 9-year-old girl, and strangely enough, Michaela was the very next child reported missing. In early December 1991, Binder sent a Christmas card to an FBI profiler featuring an image of a girl displaying 4 fingers. On December 27, 1991, 4-year-old Amanda Campbell vanished from her home in Fairfield. Binder was additionally connected to the case of 13-year-old Eileen Michaloff, who vanished from Dublin, California. In a surprising twist, his typically odd demeanor and fascination with these cases began to attract media scrutiny. His name was now linked to a troubling series of child abductions, leading to a growing animosity from the public. Binder and his family faced relentless harassment from the public, desperate for answers regarding the string of kidnappings. He ultimately took legal action against the city of Fairfield for defamation and emerged victorious in the case. Binder had emerged as a person of interest in the cases of multiple missing children, but the evidence against him was largely circumstantial at best. Investigators gradually backed off from Binder, with many believing that his main desire was to take on a significant role in the inquiry. Authorities would quickly discover that Binder, despite his peculiarities, was the least concerning among the array of suspects. The enigma surrounding the case persisted, enthralling the audience and testing the skills of those tasked with solving it. Curtis Dean Anderson faced intense examination after his apprehension and arrest in August 2000. Anderson played a role in the kidnapping of Mitzi Sanchez, an 8-year-old girl whose courageous escape resulted in the apprehension of the twisted perpetrator. After his capture, Anderson confessed to the kidnapping and killing of 7-year-old Ziana Fairchild in Vallejo, California, back in 1999. During a 2007 interview with the FBI, Anderson asserted that he had murdered an additional 13 women and girls. He was also accused of kidnapping and killing 7-year-old Amber Swartz, whom he spotted on a street corner. Before he could share additional details with investigators, he passed away on December 9, 2007, due to kidney and liver failure. After his chilling admission of having taken the lives of several young girls, investigators delved deep into Anderson's history. There was a suspicion that Anderson could have been involved in Michaela's abduction, as he matched the age range of the suspect described by Katrina. Documents indicate that in 1989, Anderson was stopped while operating a brown 1977 Chevy sedan, which corresponded with the vehicle description provided by Katrina. However, his death left investigators at a standstill, unable to delve deeper into that avenue of inquiry. Yet, the unfolding saga of unexpected turns was poised to become even more captivating. In 2009, a fresh wave of optimism swept through both the investigative team and Sharon Murch. The return of J.C. Lee Duggart after nearly 2 decades in captivity reignited a fervent determination among those involved to uncover the truth behind Michaela's disappearance. Authorities suspected that Philip Garrido and his spouse Nancy could have played a role in the kidnapping of Michaela as well. The parallels in the abductions were impossible to overlook. The details provided about the abductor and the vehicle involved appeared to align closely. Garrido had been released from prison for kidnapping and rape just 3 months before Michaela vanished, and his residence in Antioch was only an hour's drive from Hayward. Driven by the hope of discovering Michaela, a thorough inquiry into the Garridos was launched in search of any clues. Once more, they encountered an insurmountable obstacle. There was still a glimmer of hope. The intensified pursuit by investigators had reignited interest in Michaela's abduction, drawing in fresh attention and potential new leads. In August 2012, a shocking development unfolded when Wesley Shermantine, one half of the infamous pair dubbed the Speed Freaks, reached out to the Stockton Record after the tragic suicide of his accomplice, Loring Herzog, in January of that same year. He noted that Herzog closely resembled the composite sketch of the suspect in Michaela's case. Katrina's remarks added weight to the notion that Herzog bore a striking resemblance to the individual who abducted Michaela. Following Shermantine's instructions, investigators commenced the excavation of a well in Linden, California, believed to be the site where the pair reportedly buried their victims. Numerous bone fragments were unearthed, with some thought to be associated with Michaela. Subsequent DNA testing revealed that the bones actually belonged to another young woman, 19-year-old Kimberly Billy, who had vanished in 1984. Numerous abandoned wells were uncovered and excavated, yet no remains associated with Michaela were ever located. The investigators clung to their determination, even as the enigma continued to confound them at every turn. Another 8 years would elapse before detectives stumbled upon a significant clue. The occurrences surrounding this crime were undeniably startling and have resonated deeply with the community. However, the true revelation was still ahead. On December 21, 2020, the Hayward Police Department and FBI revealed that an arrest had been made in connection with the case of Michaela Garecht. David Misch, age 61 in 2022, faced charges for the kidnapping and murder of Michaela after advanced technology connected his fingerprints to those on the scooter back in 1988.
We can announce that 59-year-old David Misch has been charged with the murder of Michaela Garecht. He is in custody at Santa Rita Jail.
An exploration of Misch's past reveals a startling narrative of a man who evaded accountability for an extended period. David Emery Misch entered the world on February 19, 1961, in the city of Chicago, Illinois. Little is revealed about his early years, yet by the age of 16, he had already embarked on a path of criminal activity. In 1977, Misch faced a conviction for unlawfully entering a property and committing a sexual assault against a maid while armed with a knife. He was taken into custody but was released on parole just a year later in 1978. In February 1979, he faced arrest for allegations of false imprisonment and assault with a deadly weapon. The allegations were subsequently revised to include assault with the intention to commit rape. In September 1981, he found himself once more eligible for parole. Just under a year after his release, he found himself back in the legal system, facing charges in July 1982 for violently attacking a woman with a weapon. His release came in January 1984. In September of that same year, he faced charges for indecent exposure. In August 1985, he faced charges once more for indecent exposure, this time for driving around unclothed in Oakland, California. Misch would remain under the radar for a period until May 1988. He faced arrest for breaking into a grocery store in San Leandro, leading to a sentence of 1 year behind bars, followed by an additional year of probation. 6 months later, in November of that same year, he was released. Misch spent his entire life of crime wandering the streets of California as a transient. He occasionally took on temporary work as a welder, but nothing stable, as his adult life had been marked by frequent stints in prison. In December 1988, fate finally delivered its reckoning. Margaret Ball, age 36, had been a close friend of Misch, frequently coming to his aid during difficult times. The circumstances surrounding the events remain unclear, but Margaret was found by her stepdaughter, brutally beaten and stabbed to death, lying in a pool of blood. The brutality of the attack was evident, as her front tooth lay several feet from where her body was discovered. Authorities were notified about Mish being the prime suspect, and subsequent investigations would uncover evidence tying him to the offense. He faced arrest and was ultimately convicted for the murder of Margaret. He received a sentence of 18 years to life and started serving his time at the Santa Rita jail. As his health deteriorated, he was transferred to the California healthcare facility. In 2018, while he remained behind bars for the murder of Margaret Ball, DNA evidence connected Mish to a chilling double homicide that occurred in Fremont, California back in 1986. On February 2, 1986, 18-year-old Michelle Xavier had her best friend, 20-year-old Jennifer Dewey, set out to commemorate a family member's birthday with a dinner celebration. Following their meal at the restaurant, the young woman made a stop at a convenience store before heading back to their residence. In the dark hours past midnight, a motorcyclist stumbled upon the lifeless bodies of both women, abandoned on the roadside. They were left exposed, having endured both stabbing and gunfire. Subsequent findings from the autopsy indicated that they had also been victims of sexual assault. Michelle's vehicle was discovered 6 miles away from the scene of the incident, parked in a grocery store lot. The investigation garnered significant media attention, and various rewards were announced. Yet, as time passed, all potential leads and tips gradually dwindled, leaving the case in a state of stagnation. 3 decades on, advancements in DNA technology would guide investigators to David Mish. David Mish faces additional charges, including 3 counts of murder and 1 for abduction. While he continues to serve his current sentence, Alameda District Attorney Nancy O'Malley announced that Mish faces charges of murder along with 2 special circumstances. If convicted, he may face the ultimate penalty. In an interview with the press, O'Malley discussed the profound effects that child abduction has on family. The unimaginable terror surrounding the abduction of a young child is beyond expression, particularly in cases where the child or their remains remain elusive. She continued to express to reporters the overwhelming sorrow endured by Michaela's family. Hayward Police Chief Tony Chaplin described the case of Michaela Garecht's disappearance as a heartbreaking narrative that captivated the Bay Area for many years. He expressed that the search for Michaela's body will continue, and he remains optimistic about finding her. Rod Garrett, Michaela's father, traveled more than 100 miles to be present at the press conference. At 71 years old, he and Sharon had parted ways long ago. Yet they continued to communicate as they anxiously awaited updates about their daughter. Rod expressed a sense of solace in the fact that Mish is finally recognized after all this time. I feel a sense of relief that they've apprehended someone connected to it, so now I don't have to worry as much. They have a suspect to interrogate, and hopefully he'll reveal where the body is, he said. Sharon, diagnosed with metastatic cancer in 2019, could not make it to the press conference. Police Chief Tony Chaplin delivered a statement on her behalf. In the past year, I reached a point of acceptance that Michaela was likely no longer with us. Yet that acceptance was deeply intertwined with the vision of Michaela resting on a soft, delicate cloud, strolling along golden streets, dancing on lush hills, and soaring through the cosmos. I never imagined my daughter would be a victim of tragedy. It was only upon hearing this news that a stark vision of reality emerged, and I must admit, I am still grappling with how to process it. In the wake of the announcement, David Mish has remained silent about the crime, opting not to discuss the details or consider a plea bargain concerning Michaela's kidnapping and presumed murder. His unwillingness to engage with law enforcement creates a web of mysteries for the investigators to unravel. Mish's lawyer, Ernie Castillo, has been very vocal regarding to the case surrounding his client. He vehemently criticized the investigation, labeling the techniques employed to indict Mish as junk science. Castillo asserted that Mish was a devoted father, brother, and son, firmly stating he had no involvement in the mysterious disappearance of Michaela Garecht. He's not capable of harming or taking the life of a child, despite the allegations against him, stated Castillo. He remarked that the unexpected match of the handprint after 32 years felt utterly absurd. We will certainly challenge any notion or belief that an individual can, with their naked eye, identify ridges or any kind of patterns present on our hands, he stated. Castillo argues that law enforcement is attempting to shift all responsibility onto Mish as a convenient method to wrap up the investigation. Despite being charged with the kidnapping and potential murder of Michaela, Mish's non-compliance continues to raise lingering questions. Now a middle-aged woman, Katrina Rodriguez, who married and relocated from Hayward to Texas, continues to carry the weight of guilt from that tragic Saturday morning. She recalls feeling a deep sense of fear before meeting Sharon following the event. Instead, Sharon enveloped her in a tight embrace. Katrina, however, believes that if she had been in that situation, she would have been compliant and might have made it through. In her mind, it was destined to be her, as the scooter that had been moved was Katrina's. The weight of her guilt has compelled Katrina to erase her childhood memories and everything tied to Hayward. It simply facilitated the process of dealing with it, she remarked. For Libby, Michaela's younger sister, her reality is defined by the void left behind. She has no recollection of life with Michaela, just the haunting images of her mother weeping and anxiously waiting for her sister's return. To her, Michaela was merely an image captured in time, a young girl forever frozen in the innocence of childhood. Libby struggles to envision a reality intertwined with Michaela. Sharon devoted her whole existence to the relentless pursuit of Michaela. Initially, she stood by the door or the phone, but as time went on, she shifted her focus to the internet, relentlessly searching. Sharon eventually launched a blog titled Dear Michaela, which she later rebranded as Seeker's Road. She maintained it with the hope that one day Michaela would discover it. She longed for her daughter to make contact. Someone was responsible, but it wasn't Michaela. Sharon received a cancer diagnosis, and following Mish's arrest for Michaela's murder, her resolve gradually diminished. She felt a chilling certainty that she would soon lay eyes on her daughter again. Sharon's life came to an end in May 2022. A final twist added to this already confusing case, as David Mish awaits trial for kidnapping and murdering Michaela Garecht and Michelle Xavier and Jennifer Dewey. New Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price stirred up those who wanted him to pay. Price was criticized for dropping all special circumstances in the 3 murders. Mish no longer faces life without parole or the death penalty if convicted of all 3 murders. After 30 years, family, friends, and supporters of Michaela may have to accept that Mish could get away with his crimes. The father of Polly Klaas, who was abducted and killed in 1993, child safety advocate Michael Klaas called it a complete betrayal. Mish's defense attorney, Eddie Castillo, welcomed the news. Every case uses questionable forensics. Price's decision is expected. It recognizes their case's weaknesses, he said. Former Vermont Lieutenant Chuck Uhler, who worked on the 1986 Michelle Xavier and Jennifer Dewey murders for which Mish is charged, said, "I think there's exceptions to every rule. And if anybody ever deserved maximum punishment, it's David Mish." Former prosecutor and KTVU legal analyst called the move reckless and said it was unwise to preclude punishment since Michaela's body has not been found. it could be a later negotiating chip. This is the poster case for eternal imprisonment to keep someone from society. David Misch faces 3 murders and 1 kidnapping charges. Michaela Garecht's case has been multifaceted, starting with a mistaken identity that cost law enforcement 48 hours of investigation. It left a family struggling for decades. Now an alleged killer may be able to deny involvement and hide a little girl's body. Your thoughts on the case? Is David Misch responsible for kidnapping and possibly killing Michaela? Was he scapegoated? Did investigators make too many mistakes?